You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
We're talking all things Turn Up Charlie today on the AfterBuzz After Show for Turn Up Charlie, Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2. I'm Tehran. I will be a host alongside Princess.
Hey guys, nice to
I'm excited to be here next to Princess because all we've heard is great things about Princess. Even Idris Elba talks about you. And that's how it goes. and one of the most interesting things that you brought up to me as we started is that Idris Elba is actually a real DJ. As we will find out in Turn Up Charlie, how good a DJ Idris Elba is. We're going to talk about Idris Elba himself. How can we ignore that? Because that's the whole basis of the show, the creator and star of the show. We have Charlie's career, Charlie's living situation, the wedding, Auntie's house, because if you know about aunties, you know about the house. Dell and other characters that come to play, and of course, David, Sarah, and Gabrielle. Going into episode 2, we're going to talk about Charlie as a nanny. Charlie's parents come to play. We go to a party, and that's exciting. And of course, we're going to talk a lot more about Gabrielle and Charlie and their dynamic and relationship as well. Let's get right into some Turn Up Charlie Season 1. Overall thoughts of the show.
Yeah, I think I'm afraid it might go in a direction where you have this guy who's like lifetime bachelor and suddenly he meets this kid parent of. So I'm hoping that it kind of stares away from the traditional arc, but we'll see.
It's interesting that you feel that way, Princess, because I actually wanted it to go into this traditional arc, and I'll tell you why. I was mildly surprised. I went into the show with very little to no expectations and came back very, it was very adorable. It was very cute. It was very cute. Idris Elba, the show. It was, the only thing I didn't buy was Idris Elba himself, and I'll get into that in many ways. But overall, I just really like the flow and direction of the show. I found myself laughing out loud.
It's really cute.
It was a very fun show. It's definitely easy on the eyes, easy to watch. The interaction is very believable in a lot of ways. And the only reason I didn't find Idris Elba believable is not because of the acting acumen, which clearly he does, and not because of Idris Elba himself, which he clearly plays, is because Idris Elba is such a dynamo that it's hard for me to believe that he's not successful. And it was hard for me to picture his parents kind of being so, they almost look the same age, because it's almost as if they're trying to make Idris Elba seem younger than he is in the show. Like I feel like he's playing 30-something when we feel like he's 40-something.
Oh.
And it's that dynamic changes it a little.
Yeah, they could have done something, because you see lots of, I feel like,
that's not what they haven't spoken about, but that's where I find it the most believable.
Yeah, I think
and that's the only reason. But other than that, I thought the show was amazing. I mean, it's just hard for me to picture Idris Elba as anything but Idris Elba and successful and just doing things, right? So other than that, I was actually, I'm a fan of the show. Now, is it mind-blowing? Is it going to change your life? Is it Curb Your Enthusiasm or anything like that? No, it's not. It's a very traditional minded sitcom, but a new take on things, and the writing was not spectacular, but extremely fun, easy, and cute. It's a great show to have on and to watch, and I hope that we have much more. Let's discuss Idris Elba.
Okay.
You said the grace. I'm hurt that you brought up Idris Elba's grace. I mean, how perfect can this guy get? I mean, his bicep is the size of my body.
I'm not saying anything against Idris. I just kind of agreed with what you were saying, that he doesn't look like in his 30s. The one in his 30s, sure, if you did the makeup for it, but we all know that he's not. He looks more mature than even. So I think maybe they could have just done a better job with it. Couldn't portray, but maybe. And I do feel like kind of the way. I feel like that probably contributes. But otherwise, like, amazing. He's so handsome, actor. So issues with it.
And the only reason I bring up the 30s is because the way the show works is if they're in their 30s, right? And I'm saying mid to late 30s.
Yeah.
If we're hitting the 40s mark, it almost makes the character unredeemable. you're now past the wave, and if you wasted all your money on drugs and women, so to speak, at this point, it's kind of like you're
out of
exactly. But when you're in your 30s, you still have that flair. And I'm not saying that I'm not an ageist where I'm saying people can't get it back. I'm just saying it just makes more sense in this context of this show, given the age of Gabrielle being around 8, 9.
I think she's
10.
11.
Are we getting up to 11? You know, like however, just that age range. So I'm feeling like that 39-year-old spot, right?
Yeah.
Also, because once again, it is very difficult to separate Idris Elba, the movie star, and Idris Elba, the dynamo, from Idris Elba, the failing, unsuccessful DJ.
I think, to me, the best actors are able to body it at any point in life. So to me, I guess because I'm a fan of just acting, and that didn't really.
Well, it's just because I knew that he created this, and it's almost like a story that's supposed to be based on him in some ways. In that regards, as we were discussing earlier, he's an actual DJ, and he's going to be DJing at Coachella. You told me.
Yeah. So, and then he also worked on. Get into it later with the news, but a project coming out. So
this is his passion. It's his passion, and we just have him doing that. And I would have just been, if it was someone a little younger, maybe worked out. But everything else,
maybe if they had cast someone younger,
or if they had done this show 5 years ago, you know, because I can't see anyone but Idris Elba working this role, because it's such a natural role for him. So I'm so torn with this. Like, I hate the fact that I'm bringing up and I'm nitpicking such a insignificant yet significant part of the show, and it just makes for something that does catch my eye. And there are times where that plays, and the one I specified was the time where he was talking to his parents, and the dad and him didn't look like they were father and son, but more like brothers.
That's what I think that I would make. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think it. I don't want to die.
That's because you haven't turned gray yet. Go on.
No, I mean, anyway, Black Panther, when Angela Bassett had the white dreads, I thought it was.
Oh.
But I think that was an issue that
he was also playing like grandma. Anyway, the concept is this. The concept is, Idris Elba, you did an amazing job.
You did.
Overall, definitely an A. All across the board. I feel like Idris Elba. Let's be fair. And here's another thing about the show. No Idris Elba, to me, no show. He's just such a charming, charismatic character in the show. From the moment that we see him, from the get-go, from the dynamic between him and Dell, who's the best friend, cousin character that we see living in the auntie house, from that get-go. And there are such great moments in that, which we will break down when we talk about the characters. I just, we can't separate Idris from Charlie because they are one and the same. So, how did you feel about Charlie? Let's take out the Idris Elba, Charlie as a person.
I think, once again, I've seen this character before.
It's a common archetype.
Right. But I will say that I appreciate the fact that I feel like maybe because he's Nigerian or he's of African, I feel like he values family already, chosen for himself. So I think that's an interesting thing to bring.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's something I've really picked up. Not just a black man, but he is African. So I think it's really cool to that influence his story.
And something that brings out a prejudice in myself is when I'm used to seeing black being American, and then you realize there's so much black in the rest of the world. Of course, Africa and different countries, and Africa is a very big place. We have to think Africa is just different all across the board. So it's not, you can't just say, oh, this person's from Africa. No, this person specifically has Nigerian descent. It makes a big difference. Secondly, I really like the concept that Idris played the British accent. Yes, they are in London, and he's showing that London itself is very diverse. I don't know if you've ever been to London yourself, But I've been to London many times. It's actually in my top 3 favorite cities in the entire world,
That's
and I've
cool.
been so many places. And the reason being is the diversity, which is overwhelming there, and it's such a natural state of being. It's not something, as a person who comes from the United States, you notice it, but it's not something that they put on display. It just is.
That's amazing.
And everyone just kind of is what they are, and everyone's getting along. Now, the rest of England, of course, is not like that, but London itself is very such a mixed metropolitan.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. As far as Charlie himself, I like Charlie. He's a likable guy. This is a guy with a dream. It's a guy who we later find out has this hit record that didn't, it didn't pan out for him. He has a one hit, and it was a big deal. It was a big deal. It's such a big deal that Craig David knew the song.
Yeah.
As soon as he saw him, he's like, oh, baby, knows the song. But it didn't work out. It didn't work out. I mean, I get this character. I get it. Like, and it's just so real. And especially in entertainment, you kind of realize this could be one of us. You know? Yeah. And so I just really liked the character. I liked level-headed, but you can see passion for the dream. Saw that play when, saw the ex-girlfriend, saw the, they're not anymore. And then, and he's got the small room, he's got the DJ booth set up, and he's got all records. He's got the little twin bed. He has a little twin bed.
He is the picture of a lot of people's hustle. Like, I saw his living, I immediately thought of all the people that I know are still pursuing. I thought that was another cool. I felt like it pretty, I don't know if accurate is the right word, but I thought it was hustling.
In the hustle, no matter what age you are.
Right.
No matter what age you are, you're digging for that goal. It's like, this is all you've got. That was fun. And the living situation itself, living with Auntie.
Yes.
Have you ever been in a situation where you lived with like a family member like that?
No, outside of my parents, I'm thankful that I haven't, but I love the relationship. And again, that portrayal, like for us as Americans, I feel like we more of not just color, but to see that direct influence, that the fact that they're from another country. I just loved the relationship with his aunt, and just what she brings past. Hilarious.
She's very very realistic. It's a cultural aunt. I have a mixed heritage background, and that immigrant influence, which I know, like, my family's Middle Eastern, so it's very familiar feel. It's that aunt that's just outspoken, this is my house, walks in, is like, knock, I own this house. And I really like the use of the term auntie, because especially if you are of cultural descent, or even down south. I remember in Black Panther when Michael B. Jordan says, "Hi, Auntie," and the audience you felt that charge. It resonated because it was something that we had not heard used in a familiar tone before. And one of the things that I find so outside of the living situation is the concept that, yes, this is a quote unquote cast of Black actors, but it's not the point of the show. Right. Being Black isn't the point of the show, and it doesn't play a dynamic role in it. This is a show about Black people, not a Black show. And that's something where it's like, this is just how people live. This is, and it's very reminiscent of the living situation, and very reminiscent of London itself to me. Yeah.
Paris, I didn't.
Paris is not welcoming. Paris is not welcoming.
It was not.
The French love them, not welcoming.
It was not.
And when I say love them, I hate them all. But they're so nice. Part of my life, I grew up a bit in France, and then my brother is currently in Paris. So I'm very familiar with Paris, and it's just very different than London. It's actually night and day in a lot of ways. But the living situation of Charlie being 40-something, and living at home, basically, is such a new age millennial idea. And it sits well with a lot of 30-year-olds that still live at home, who are looking to do something. It's going to happen. The break's going to happen. And they just keep trying.
Well, anyone, I think, back to what you said, still part of that. They're still hustling. They still chase that dream. Like, I think even if not a millennial anymore.
But one of my favorite living situation circumstances was when Charlie brought home
Oh yes.
brought home Dee from the wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and Dee is someone like he's kind of, I guess he's known, he's had some. They've never had an intimate relationship as far as I know, but Dee's just waiting.
Yeah.
She's like, she chooses him. He gets chosen basically because he's like, me, and she's like, yeah, you. They go back. She goes to the auntie's house, goes to the little bed. They're on the bed, about to get into it. Auntie comes in, is like, you need to keep it down. And then Dell is still on the little sofa thing where they left during the day. He was supposed to leave. He's like, I closed my eyes and I'm still here. Like I fell asleep basically.
Yeah, I love that the dynamic between reminds me of, though I'm I'm African American and I don't have that direct connection to culture like he does.
Sure.
It just reminds me of my family situation back home. Over like just how important, and it goes back to what I said, that family is aspect of his life. So I thought it was hilarious and super relatable.
It is. And you know what? We've seen this kind of dynamic. It's actually reminiscent of Friday or Friday After Next between the Ice Cube and the Mike Epps character. Dell is very much the Mike Epps, and just plays this place where Ice Cube is the straight guy, for the most part, and then Mike Epps plays wild card. That's who Dell is. Dell is very much the wild card.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, of course. And let's talk about the characters. So the characters that we were introduced to in episode 1, the characters off the bat were, of course, Charlie, who's the DJ, main character, the protagonist. Then we also see Auntie. Auntie comes in, the matriarch, for the most part. She is the matriarch of the family. Then we see Dell. Dell's the best friend. So of these three, who's your favorite so far? Charlie, Auntie, and Dell.
I think Dell is hilarious, but I have so many aunts that I'm really close to, and just that auntie relationship really resonates with me.
And especially the accent. She has the accent.
She has the accent. She has her spoon. It's her way. And my aunts are they're younger, they're more understanding, but it's very much her way. This is her house. So I think just because it reminds me of home, I'm going to go with the auntie.
I'm going to go with, as much as I love Charlie, great character. As much as I love Auntie, amazing character, I'm going to have to go with Dell.
He's hilarious.
The way Dell plays it, Guzhan plays it so natural, and it's such a strong comic relief. Idris Elba and Guzhan remind me of a Laurel and Hardy shtick where it's the straight man plays against the comedic backdrop, the comic relief at all times. And it's just the funniest. It's I can only see it arising to more humorous and funny situations.
Me too.
Then we also get the characters, and this is important because then we see David, the best friend. Or the best friend they grew up with.
Yes.
Then there was a part when David moved to LA, and you did the quotations. Why did you do the quotations?
When she said best friend, I thought to myself, there was nothing best friend that felt like this relationship didn't feel like a best friend. So I thought that was kind of random. Like, really, he was your best friend? You haven't spoken to your best friend in X number of years. Like, I have a best friend who lives across the country, but I still talk to her, even if it's once every couple of weeks. So I don't know if that title is still relevant. I don't know. When I heard it, I thought, I think that's a stretch. But they're close. They were close.
Are you how far removed from college are you?
I've been out of school 7 years.
Okay, so this is the reason I bring this up. So it's very admirable that you stay in contact with your best friend across the country. I'm going to be honest, maybe it's a guy thing. Like my college friends who I would consider my closest friends, I might not talk to them for 3 to 6 months at a time.
Well,
Easy.
even that's more than years. Like, you may speak to them, 4 times a year?
Nah.
If you do 3 to 6 months, okay, 3 times a year. That's 3 to 6
birthdays,
months.
I'm counting the birthday text, the Christmas text and the once a year phone call.
Maybe it's different with guys.
I just came off. I actually went to a wedding this past weekend in which it was people who were my cousins, people who were my closest friends in life. We grew up together, and I had not spoken to many of them in a year or a little more.
And you would still call them your best friend?
I would still have to say, I would have to use that affinity because of it's almost like you go beyond it to a family because you were there during those intimate moments in life where it shapes your life the most. So things that I do now doesn't really shape me as a person as much as it did between the ages of 7 to 17. And or even from something like 5 to 25. Those were the years where those people who were there I would feel the closest to. We have so many memories. And if David falls into that category, which it seems that he did, I could see how they could be such close friends.
I don't know. I feel like if if Charlie ran into issues, which clearly he did, like I can call my best friend and she would help me in any way that she can.
I think this is going into the boundaries of toxic masculinity where I wouldn't do that.
Oh, well, hey, maybe you can identify with Charlie.
Yeah, no, at that part I was like, I understand why, because they grew up together. They grew up together. They were probably best friends in elementary school, middle school, then high school, going into uni over there. So they were best friends, and then of course David made the split and went to LA to Hollywood and became a star. So now we see the divergence of two, especially the dynamic of Charlie being the man in high school and then David becoming the man in real life.
Oh, there's a level of shame.
Exactly. There's a level like that's I won't ask you because I'm the one who used to be the
That's fair.
I was the one, especially if I came out, I had the hit first. I had this first. I had all this first, and then you actually went on to become successful, right? So successful and prestigious, because that's what we learn about David is that his acting career has taken off, but he's actually a very serious actor. We see he comes back to London to be in theater. We see him on the posters. He's got a very George Clooney career. He's not. Well, there's a difference. George Clooney has a great career. I mean, that's a person we take seriously as an actor. Yes. So it's not like The Rock, who's also extremely famous, but when it comes to the two, The Rock is extremely popular, but George Clooney has the prestige.
He does.
And so in a lot of ways, popularity can be just the slutty little cousin to prestige. It's real though. So I could see him not being able to to just
get that out.
Tell David like, hey, I'm going through this or I'm going through that.
It'll be interesting to see how Charlie grows and how that continues, because you see him fighting his pride throughout both episodes. So it'll be interesting to see how or if he overcomes that in this season or just in this series in general. So I'm excited to see.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We're looking for this character arc, right? Because right now it's kind of stagnant, but we can see where it's going. We also meet Sarah. That's David's wife. She's an international DJ, basically a huge DJ. She is the Tiesto. She's the Armin van Buuren. She is, because she's not the Paris Hilton DJ. She's an actual acclaimed DJ where Charlie has memories of her before her and David, where Charlie's like, I admire, I look up to you as an artist. What'd you think of Sarah?
I was a big fan of Sarah.
You were?
Yeah, I like Sarah a lot. I love the fact that she is a legitimate DJ. She appreciates the art, and she's not just a trophy wife to David, but she is a professional, a working professional. So I love that just as a woman. And also when it comes to the family dynamic, I like the fact that she was the disciplinarian in a way, because I feel like that's something we usually see it flipped, and I thought that was something that was really cool, and I identify with that, so I actually like Sarah.
Sarah's like, so between David and Sarah, you're going Sarah.
I would say she's flawed, but yes, I would say Sarah.
And do you see them as a couple?
I do. I think that, especially like growing up, we had one person that was harsher than the other in terms of discipline. So I'm used to seeing that there's
Your mom? Your dad?
My dad was the one.
He was the strict one.
He was the strict one. So I guess I'm.
Key came in the door. You were like, daddy's home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to that dynamic.
Sure.
But yeah, also just as a woman, I appreciate who Sarah is, and that's really the bigger thing for me, even more than the disciplinarian. But I love the fact that she's this working mom who takes her craft very seriously. So I like Sarah. I'm Team Sarah.
That's what's up. Were you Team Gabrielle? Now, Gabrielle, of course, is the spawn of David and Sarah. Is the spawn. And I say that because in a lot of ways, she is a devil spawn. We meet her first ridding herself of a nanny.
Yes.
This Croatian nanny whose vibrator she has decided to snatch
and give to the dog.
And make sure to embarrass and humiliate, something that we see her use as a tool.
Yes. I see her as a broken little girl, and I see everything that she does as a cry for help. She wants to be with her parents. So even though she does some despicable things and makes me want to come in and correct her myself.
You would have Auntie spooned her?
I won't say that, but
you won't say it, but you would have done it?
There was some disciplining that would have happened. I mean, I didn't even see her get punished. Like, she didn't even get anything taken away.
And she knew it.
She knew it.
Because we see David and Sarah come to speak to her, and she's like, Sarah's going to get mad, but watch.
Yeah.
David, as she explains it to Charlie.
Right, yeah. So we don't even see her get anything. But we also see how she really just wants to be with her parents.
Yeah.
And because of that, I just see it as acting out. So I don't even see her as the spawn anymore. It's this little girl really wants to spend time with her parents, and unfortunately, they're both away. So I see her differently.
Even
now.
when they're home, they're away.
Even when they're home,
and
they're not
we see
present.
that constantly. We see that constantly.
That's why she actually
She reminds me of, is it the little, is 13 going on 30? The movie about the little girl and Brittany Murphy is the nanny, becomes the nanny.
Uptown Girls.
Uptown Girls.
Oh, I love
She reminds me of that little girl.
Dakota Fanning.
Exactly. The character type of the mom who's an executive in that case, and in this way, is both parents are entertainment professionals, and she just wants attention in a way, and is always passive aggressively expressing how parents aren't there. Now, me as a kid, I wish my parents weren't there. Like, I wish my parents were just home. They were always like there. They were always giving me opinions. I was like, bruh, can you please stop giving me attention? Like, I'm really over this love right now. I'm like, I want you. Can't you just buy my love? Like, buy me presents.
So you can put it in the drawer like
she just puts it in the drawer. I'm like, yeah, you better keep that. Like, I want my parents to just, here, buy my affection. I'm for sale, Mom and Dad. I'm tired of another hug. Like, I get it. You love me, right? So we see this character. Do you pity Gabrielle?
I do. She has her parents. She's a child. She doesn't understand that the reason her parents are working so hard and doing so much is to give her a better life. And it's sad when all you see is being shut off. You can't be here. You can't do this. You can't do that. They're physically present, but emotionally they're not present. But she's not old enough to understand the dynamic and what's really going on. And so in that regard, I do pity her, because there's so much more to this, and she's too young to understand.
Do you think that she played it well? Like, was she the right actor for this role?
There are some lines that I thought could have been delivered better, but...
This kid's 11. What do you want, princess? Sheesh.
I was about to say, she's a child.
You want Meryl Streep?
She's a child, so I give her a pass for that, but, I mean, I thought she was fine.
I actually thought she did a really good job, and there was something about her physical look that it took me not a second, but it just took me time to get accustomed to her. And it was a harshness in her look. And she does have this very grown way. And I realized that that's just part of the portrayal of what they're trying to get out. Because it could have been, I remember Dakota Fanning being like such a cute cute, just cute girl, but also having this. But this girl has less of the. She's cute, but she's not as adorable as for example, if you watch a show that's like this, Mr. Belvedere Wesley had this adorable character, right? So the bad kid who's secretly a good kid. Macaulay Culkin had this adorableness too. I didn't feel like she had that as much. However, I was a big fan of her acting.
Yeah.
I thought she acted very well. She just did so strong, and it was so good.
Yeah, she's only gonna grow from here. The character is 11. I'm not sure how old the actual actress is, but you know, to be on a Netflix series, that's amazing. So she's only going to grow.
Yeah, she was great. I just thought she was great. She played it so well, and by the second episode, I did find her adorable through her actions more so than her demeanor. Let's talk about the wedding, because that was kind of the two things that played out were the wedding and, of course, Charlie being with Gabrielle in the first run. So let's talk about those two things and finish up episode 1. The wedding. Here Charlie's the DJ at this wedding. He has an event.
Yes, and he's the wedding DJ at that. There are a couple of things I loved about it. I'm going back to the cultural elements. I love how present that was, and I just love just seeing it on screen. But yeah, I think that's the moment when I truly felt for Charlie, and I got to see his pride and his shame on display. So for me, that was a really big moment. I got to see who Charlie is and learn more about who he's pretending to be. Because not until episode 2 we see him with this record in the background lying to his parents. But at this point, that's when I feel like, okay, now I get who Charlie is. I love that observation. That's a great way to put it. The things that I took away were, of course, when the ex showed up and then David's asking questions about that. Like, oh, you guys go, oh, look who's here. Oh, you guys thinking they're going to be together. And then, of course, she's moved on to the point where she's married. She's married. So he shows up and it's like, boom. And secondly, of course, when Dee, who we find out peed in her pants when she was in church when she was like 3, and Auntie brings up everything he's ever done when she calls him. But I see the dynamic between a group of friends who have drifted apart but still have these memories that are strong, and it really did show, I agree with you, regarding Charlie and his character. The second part that showed Charlie's character, in my opinion, was of course when Charlie is left with Gabrielle, because David has an audition run where he's going to do a run with a acclaimed actor, and he goes off and basically leaves Gabrielle in the dressing room. It's like, can you watch her? And that, to me, the way he handled that, Charlie handled hanging out with this kid and kind of bringing her down to his level in a good way. I thought that was really telling of who he was and how sweet he was. And I think for Gabby too, I think that's when we got to see who she is. Like, what's her problem? She's not this demon child, but she's really broken and really hurt. So I think that was a really important.
We see her in the dressing room just sitting on the chair, and we see her saying little things like.
She was. I don't remember if she was actually crying or she was about to cry, but that's when we see, okay, now I understand what's going on here, and how we got to see her be emotional, which I think was really important for us to see. Yeah,
and she wants to just show them her outfit and things like that, and they're just too busy. And then they pay Charlie. They pay Charlie at the end, and Charlie, basically, that's the first payola he takes to be the nanny. And he's in it for his reasons. Going into episode 2, Charlie as a nanny. Episode 2 was a lot more straightforward. There was a point to episode 2. It was just straight, like, this is how it is. So, what did you think of episode 2? Overall thought?
I think for episode 2, it was good to kind of see. I think it was good to see that switch in Gabby and see her transform from, oh, you're my dad's friend, to, oh, you're a nanny, you're just another employee, well, now I'm going to make you miserable. I thought it was interesting to kind of see, again, once how much that affects her and that's what's really driving her. So yeah, I like to see that switch and to see, okay, again, now I understand another level of Gabby.
It was the switch.
Mm-hmm.
The switch where it's like, now you're the nanny, you're getting paid to hang out with me.
Mm-hmm.
This is who and we all know the kids that torment the babysitter. That's the archetype. That's like it's cliche. It's been done, but I like the way they did it.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie becomes the nanny once again, talking about pride and his shame. He doesn't want to do this, but he creates a justification that we all know is pretty far-fetched. Is that because he'll be nannying, he'll basically be there, and then he's going to come up with the song idea, and then Sarah's going to play, and it's going to go number one, and he's going to be back on top.
You know, I don't think that it was just about the opportunity. I do believe that Charlie cares about David. And I do believe that, yes, he wants to further his career, and yes, he needs the money. But I do think that there's a level to him that actually cares, because when he did turn down the money, he didn't have to. He could have been like, thank you. Let me know when you need me again.
But he took it eventually.
He eventually took it, but she also kind of like forced it on him and then left the room in a way. So I will say that even though like he is the Manny, I do think that Charlie does care about his friend and his daughter. And I think that, at least I hope, that we would see more of that in the season.
Well, I'm going to have to wait to see, because I do think that it's more about the opportunity and the money at this point, because he's not the child-rearing type, as Auntie points out, he says. This is probably the first prolonged interaction he's had with the child in that regards, and you can tell just the way he handles her, deals with her. He just doesn't really know what he's doing when it comes to kids.
I mean, yeah, she's a preteen, which is scary. Middle school kids are scary. But then also,
you said that with experience, like
yeah. But I think on the other side of it too is it's also his relationship. I think he understands like the seriousness of this role. Like, he's literally getting paid. Like, yes, this is his friend, but he's also getting paid to watch a child, and that can be pretty daunting. So, I don't know. From experience.
We also see another source of pride and shame when Charlie's parents Skype, and we get that. It's a funny interaction. It's very like foreign. An immigrant parent, and I liked it a lot. But you see him, he sets up so it looks like he's in an office. He's wearing a shirt with a tie, even though he has no pants on, with the desk, and he's having a conversation, and he doesn't bring up the breakup. He doesn't bring up not having a job. He doesn't bring up DJ. He even offers to send money home, because now that he has the nanny gig, he thinks that he can do so.
This is really nitpicky, but I thought it was so weird that no one spoke in the video. He was yelling at people, but you heard nothing in response. Again, this is nitpicky, but I was like, what is happening here?
You mean when he was acting like the other coworkers?
Yeah, like he was saying, oh, get me coffee, or no, I'm on a call. Like, it was just weird.
I thought that was cute, because
there was no response.
You've never done that when you're on the phone, you're like, oh yeah, hey, what's up, bro? Oh yeah, that's
I've never done that. I would rather just ignore the call.
You've never done that to swerve someone? Where you gotta swerve someone?
If I know who's calling, I'm just not gonna answer.
Oh man, that's great.
But he has this charade that he's keeping up. I just thought it was hilarious that his aunt wasn't playing, Del wasn't playing. It was just him. It was all him.
And we all I feel like we all do that, where we cover up things when it comes to our family or friends.
That's true.
And that's what IG stories really are. That's why we use filters. We use filters. This was just like a real filter. This was like a filter 2.0.
Yes, it was.
We had
next level.
A fake. And what you think about his parents? What you think about Charlie's parents?
I mean, I it'll be interesting, because I'm sure at some point in the series, or I don't know, I think at some point in the series it will come out. And I think that just the vibes that I got, I just feel like they actually are supportive, and I think that he might be, just like with fear in general, sometimes we just blow things out of proportion. So we just become super panicky and we feel like we have to go through all these lengths, when really if we just told the truth or we just faced our fear, it wouldn't be that bad.
Strong.
So I feel like at some point, hopefully, he will have to tell them the truth, and they're going to come and support him and love him. It's not going to be as bad as he thought.
That's amazing. That's such a strong point. You're wrong. I disagree completely. 100%. This is when you have to have immigrant parents, right?
Okay.
He has to lie to them. Listen, they're never going to support. He's not a doctor, lawyer, engineer. They still already don't like him, and he's doing all this. If he comes out and tells them the truth, he's donezo. Dad might disown him.
But the auntie is there.
Yeah, but the auntie, they disowned her. They were just like, yo, don't end up like your auntie. Basically,
I mean,
they went off on
were
everybody
shady.
else in that family as well.
They were
So
shady.
mom and dad aren't improving of any alternative lifestyle, whether it's professionally, emotionally, anything. They're not an open-minded group of people. They're not going to support him in his endeavors. They're going to basically remind him how he is not doing anything.
But they already supported the fact that he is in the music industry and he was a performer. So
They did not. They thought it was a pipe dream. They acted like it was a pipe dream.
But here they are. Here we are in real life, and they think that he's this great executive. So clearly they're accepting of alternative choices in some regard, because he's not a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer.
Exactly. So
they're already like 2 steps ahead.
yeah, well, we'll see. I disagree. I think they're going to call him out. Okay, at the party, they go to the party. And the party is, of course, he's a Manny. Mm-hmm. Gabrielle convinces Sarah to take her, like, so she can go, because she's used to going to these parties. Mm-hmm. And then Sarah's like, you can come. Charlie's going to be your Manny.
Yep.
What do you think of that?
There's a movie I used to watch regularly called Problem Child.
Problem Child. Ooh, good call.
Yes, and all of the subsequent sequels. It reminded me of that, and to me, I just thought the entire scene was hilarious because I used to love that movie. And in Problem Child, once again, he had brokenness and he was acting out, and this episode should have been named Problem Child to me. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I liked the party scene. Mm-hmm. I liked how he was supposed to be watching her, and she disappears, and the mom comes. It's like, what is that? She's like rolling a blunt, and I liked the character. What was her name with the curly hair? She was one of my favorite. That's my jam.
Yeah.
That's my jam. My jam is women of color who are professionals who have curly hair. I don't know what it is. I love them. Everyone who watches an AfterBuzz show and knows me on the panel knows that's my jam. Mm-hmm. It's totally my jam. I love her. And she was like, if you treat her like a kid, she'll act like a kid. Mm-hmm. Treat her like an adult, she'll respond like an adult. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference between episode 1 and episode 2, is in episode 1, Charlie acted almost in an adult way, even to the point where he gave her the demanding shirt. But as soon as it became a job, he started catering. And that was the difference, that cater. And I feel like if he didn't cater, if he was like, listen, kid, this is what I want, and you're going to help me, and I like you, but this is why I need it, she would understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I think also not just catering, but even, you know how people talk to babies with this baby voice?
Exactly.
It's really not necessary.
Unnecessary. Well, actually, the reason why babies respond, they respond to higher pitched voices. That's just the higher.
People aren't thinking about that. They're just thinking, oh, it's a baby or it's a puppy or whatever. I need to talk with this tiny voice. I agree with you. That was the difference, and I noticed that as well.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I'm on the same page. And I love the fact that she was like, listen, there's no alcohol in this. It's about the illusion. It's about making her feel like an adult, even though we know that she's not. I thought that was so smart, and I want to see more from that character because I think she has a lot of wisdom to bring.
She does. She came out, and there's this archetype of a character, is this old black woman or an old black character who comes in and just knows everything, you know, the wise character. She comes off that, and she's young and professional and has things to say, to the point where she was giving her the character was giving Gabrielle the drinks, and we thought they were alcoholic, and we find out she's like, there's no alcohol in them. I just made her feel like an adult.
So smart.
And that was a smart way to handle it, and I hope that Charlie picks up on that note. So we also have that party. Now, let's go to the concept of Gabrielle getting rid of Charlie. Basically, within 24 hours, she basically, two things happened to do so. After the party, because of her shenanigans at the party where she basically pours foam on everyone at an inopportune time.
Shenanigans.
She, in a disappointing manner, everyone's kind of upset at her for what she did, especially Sarah. And Charlie takes, instead of going back to her house, Charlie takes Gabrielle to his house, to Auntie. And Auntie's not having it. And Auntie tries.
She did. She did.
She tried.
She did.
She tried, and she was like, what is this? Fufu. Fufu, of course, being a traditional dish. She spit it out. Very disrespectful. And this is after Auntie had mentioned, you know, you get beat. Like, I would beat a kid. And so Auntie's having a conversation, speaking to her in a very nice manner. And Charlie says something that's actually kind of profound. It's like, being bitchy and rude is not being real or something being respectable.
It's not what being an adult is about.
It isn't. Exactly. You know, maybe I should learn that lesson, but whatever. Maybe I mean, one day, I don't know, maybe.
What I took away from that scene is everything that Gabby said. I hope that David did not say. I hope she just made it up.
No. I felt like, okay,
you felt like David actually said it?
Gabby says that David basically says that Charlie lost all his money because he wasted his money on drugs and women, that he's a one-hit wonder, and that he's a loser, and that he's giving him this opportunity because he's poor. And Gabby is telling the truth.
Why do you think Gabby's telling the truth? Do you really
Because
think
Gabby
David
comes
feels that
off
way?
and says, you always told me not to lie. So this is the things that kids pick up when parents don't think their kids are paying attention. Kids pick up and they regurgitate this information. She picked that up.
I mean, she could have picked that up and made all these connections without having heard that, because she doesn't know the depth of her father's relationship with Charlie. So it also could be, I observe all these things, and these are the assumptions that I'm making with my negative mindset.
Sure.
That, I don't know. He could have said it. He could have said it.
David never, ever denies. He doesn't say, I never said that, Gabby. Why would you say that?
That's a good point.
And then he calls Charlie at the end. The phone's ringing, and it's David, and Charlie just doesn't answer.
But we don't know why.
He called because he felt bad. It was the guilt call.
I mean, he could have been calling to be like, hey, I'm sorry that my child is, you know.
The devil?
She's having issues. But I don't know. I just really hope that David didn't say that. Maybe he did.
I feel like he did. I feel like he did, and it sounds like something someone would say when,
not realizing
especially,
their child is
it's not
listening.
even so much as realizing, but remember the dynamic between them is Charlie was the man, now David's the man, and even though they are best friends, sometimes that competitive edge and spirit comes out, and you become frenemies with your own best friend, and you try to figure out who's better or who does things or who was the one.
Yeah, but he didn't have to hire Charlie.
He didn't have to, but he kind of did. The Croatian quit, and Charlie was there, and Charlie and Gabrielle got along.
There that they could have found. You know, he didn't have to throw him a bone. I think even if he did throw him a bone, I feel like there's something emotionally there, because he could have hired anybody.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, something we touched on at the party, just the way Gabby is when she spits out truth at the wrong time, right? So Craig David comes over and says hi to her, says hi to Gabby, and then Charlie introduces himself. Craig automatically recognizes who he is, like, oh, I know who you are. And Charlie decides to Gabrielle decides to undermine that by saying he's a nanny, he's lost all his money, now he gets paid to watch me, and that's all he is. And she's telling the truth.
She's telling the truth
in opportune time.
She's telling the truth that she's observed. She doesn't know that much about Charlie to be able to say the full story. She's looking at the things that she's observed.
Was she wrong?
She wasn't wrong, but she's still
That's
looking
what I'm saying.
she's taking it off of it's based on observation, not on what she knows.
It's the truth. She's a very smart child. She even mentions that she has an IQ of 130, which is nice.
Still,
could be a little higher. Whatever. I'm in Mensa.
They observe things and draw conclusions without knowing the full picture, without knowing the full story.
She's a sponge. So, anything else about episode 2 which we didn't touch on? And Dell was hilarious again. Once again, the comic relief. Ani, Dell,
absolutely.
Just being there the way they did it. Great acting. Great. I like the script. Yeah. Simple, but still a unique play on an archetype, an age-old archetype.
Yeah. I'm just excited to see where the series goes and how. I'm sure Charlie's going to end up going back to be the Manny. So I'm excited to see that, and also to see, they did say she's going to start school, so I'm excited to see what that looks like as well.
Well, it's going to be interesting. I agree that the Manny has to go. What else is the point of the show?
Right.
As of right now,
somehow.
It's
so
the connection between those two. It's the age-old adage, who's the boss 2019. Let's jump into your news segment, which you have.
Yeah.
What is the special news that you would love to discuss?
Yeah, so Idris just had his directorial debut. He had his first movie called Yardie.
Yardie.
Yes, Yardie. Like the yardstick or Stomp the Yard, just with an IE at the end.
Sure, but it's in relation to the Yardies are kind of like British hoodlums in a way.
Insight.
So it's like
Insight.
Yardie.
Insight.
So that's the concept. It's a Yardie. It's a British term.
Yes. Well, his first movie that he directed just premiered on Friday. It's called Yardie. So just check your local listings. Now that I know, it's like, oh, that's really interesting. I didn't know it was a British term. But yeah, I'm excited to see more from him. And I'm based on what I've read and just based on the fact that he was a DJ, I'm sure he had a lot to say in the music department. But yeah, that was his directorial debut on Friday.
Yeah.
50.
So it's just to expound more on the term Yardie, because I was looking for something very specific. It is a reference to a Jamaican Caribbean diaspora, like the expat, that basically refers to a person of Jamaican origin, and the term is derived from the Jamaican patois for home or yard. So that's what they call homies in Britain. It's like Yardie. And it's because it's like the people. But it's respectively towards Jamaican or Caribbean descent. That there is a group of the diaspora in Great Britain, in London specifically. And so that's where the term Yardie comes from. And then in a lot of ways it also means a hood, because Yardies also are the ones who, back to the stereotype of drug trafficking and things like that. So it's like both gangster and friendly. So homie, very similar.
I will be careful
connotation.
when I use it. Okay.
Any other news?
No, that's all that I have for the segment.
Well, it's great to have that news segment. I really appreciate it. We're gonna do a special segment really quick, and our special segment is going to be the part of the show that made you go, ha! Ha! It is the ha moment. What was the ha moment for you?
Ha as in like ha.
It could be any way you determine the ha.
Any ha. I think the ha moment for me was when Gabby started talking about she just started complaining about how her parents weren't there. To me, that was I'm thinking ha as in that's what this is about. Yeah. So that's when I realized, oh, that's what this series is about, and that's who I think Charlie's going to be in her life.
Well, I mean, that arc is definitely a play. Mine was when Dell was still in the room and Auntie came in and Charlie was with D and Dell was still there. And I was like, I mean, it just stuck out in my mind. It made me think about it. Well, let's jump into predictions. As we get into predictions of what is going to happen on Turn Up Charlie, we've kind of touched on it throughout the show. But what are some predictions, Princess?
I think that, obviously, like I just said, I think that Charlie is going to become that figure in Gabby's life, but I think he's also going to somehow find a way to relay to the parents, hey, your daughter is really missing some quality time with you guys, and she really needs that. I also think there's going to be a moment when he will have to confront his parents and confront his truth. And I also think that I'm excited to see what happens between him and the coworker, the lady with the faux alcohol. I think that
there's something, right? There was like a spark.
That
was
relationship
something.
was introduced for a reason.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that and just get more wisdom from her, because she's obviously has so much insight into this situation. So I want to get more tea from her and also see what happens to them. And if I had to go all the way there, I think they may, grow into a relationship, and he may suddenly have this desire for kids.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to go with. I'm gonna have to go with number one. I like of course, the arc. Mm-hmm. We need a redemption of some sort. I'm interested in seeing what happens. What happens between, what happens with Charlie and David? That's kind of up in the air. That's David calls, Charlie doesn't answer. I think that Charlie goes back to work. Mm-hmm. I think that later on, Charlie does get the moment to shine. I don't think Sarah takes him seriously as a DJ. Mm. Even though Sarah did downplay her own accomplishments, as Gabby pointed out.
Yeah.
But I think he has that moment where he gets to shine as a DJ in front of her, mm-hmm. and it becomes something more. Mm-hmm. And I also think that I think that Del is going to play a more dynamic role than he has been. And I do like the idea of those two, Charlie and the coworker, mm-hmm. getting along. I hope that happens as well. Well, that's what it is. This is for our show. Princess, where can people find you if you want to be found?
Yes, I'd like to be found on the internet, on Instagram.
On the internet.
On the internet.
Find her on the internet, people.
Yes, you guys can find me on
She's
Instagram at Princess Carol TV. I'm also on after shows for The Voice and World of Dance.
Well, I'm going to definitely check that out. I am Tehran, in case you didn't know, but literally at I am Tehran all across the board. That's IAMTEHRAN. Catch me also on a slew of other AfterBuzz after shows, and every Monday and Thursday at 10 p.m. at the Laugh Factory. I'd love to see you guys there. We're going to be talking more Turn Up Charlie at the same time next week. Same Turn Up Charlie time, same Turn Up Charlie channel. Thank you all so much for being a part of us. We love all of you. Please comment, share, and subscribe below, and let your friends know we are talking Turn Up Charlie. If you love Idris Elba as much as we do, you will be right here. Catch you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.